Right, hey everyone, I'm Klloo. Welcome to some more Flesh and Blood discussion. Today, we're going to be focusing on Three of a Kind, which was left off the most recent banned and suspended/restricted announcement, right? And the reason for that was due to it having inbuilt limiters to prevent you being able to play it in conjunction with itself. Well, one, we're a Riptide, and we're going to show you that that's not necessarily the case, but I also have some other points to make about its design and how, out of all the cards, personally, from my perspective, that were banned and removed, I think Three of a Kind probably has some of the most limiting design for anything in the future when it comes to Ranger, right? So we will show off some stuff with Riptide, and we'll show off some stuff with Azalea. But starting off, right, we're going to be using Honing Hood to play all three copies of Three of a Kind, plus we'll throw in Reel in just to really show how easily it is for Riptide, under the right circumstances, again, like usual, we are rigging things, but under the right circumstances to absolutely flood your hand, right? So, nice and simple, we can play Three of a Kind from hand, not even really using Riptide's ability here, but, right, Reel in and Traps made more sense. Right, so 3 cards, perfect. Then we do Three of a Kind again, get 3 more cards, perfect. Then we can do Honing Hood, and we'll do the Reel in play, right? So we'll stick Reel in into our arsenal since it allows us to reload, right? So we can do Reel in, we can pitch 3, gain the maximum amount of cards from this, right? The rest of my deck is all traps, just to, again, showcase that this is pretty absurd, the amount of cards you can get in hand as Riptide, right? And then we load up another Reel in, we play another Reel in, and 3 again, pitch any blue, which is fine, right? Another 4 cards. Oh, this is actually the easiest way to stack up your hand out of all the classes, right? If you just had a resource necessity. But then we do another Reel in, play it again, 3 once more, Rock Slide Trap, and you can do more than 3 if you wanted, just to ensure that you get the trap draw as well, that you always get 4 cards drawn. I mean, as long as you're pitching, what, 3 cards? So, no, 2 cards. So Reel in plus 2 cards, then you're always getting 1 positive card. And, you know, if they're all blues, that's 9, that's 10 cards you're opting through to find 4 traps. So, fairly decent, but then we do Three of a Kind, and you guessed it, play the final Three of a Kind, right? Or for 1 pitch card, and we end up with this size of a hand. And, you know, as a fatigue trap tide, right, it's fairly decent. We have what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 cards in hand just off of Three of a Kind, really, right? And that's what we can do with traps, but there's still plenty of stuff you can do with arrows as well. And one of the big issues for me when it comes to Three of a Kind and how it does actually impact LSS's future development is the main mechanic for limiting Three of a Kind is that whole arsenal mechanic. Yeah, it's a big identity of Ranger is to play cards from the arsenal. So this limits equipment design in the future. This limits anything that puts anything into the arsenal. Again, we're using Honing Hood, right, to play all 3 copies. We didn't even do it as Riptide. We had 1 in the arsenal start, 1 in hand. That's already playing 2 copies as either Riptide or Azalea, and then Honing Hood allows you to play the 3rd, right? But yeah, so overall Three of a Kind, to me, has a significantly bigger impact on the future development of Ranger, because it makes them have to limit anything they do with aim, especially with the new equipment, or anything they do with reloading, right? And reload is a very sparse keyword that I think is really cool, right? It's low impact arrows, but allow you to chain them more frequently, rather than aim, which should be big arrows that do devastating effects. But nonetheless, we'll hop over to Azalea and show, again, how this can then lead into the other main clause of the banned and restricted announcement, right? So we have noticeably absent. Three of a Kind, Tome of Harvest both have natural limiters built into that prevent multiple copies from being played in some circumstances. But more importantly, right, we will show that this can directly lead to a extreme offensive overlap. Maybe that doesn't result in player being reduced to 0, but still being able to push a ton of damage and just have an absurd turn with, again, probably some of the easiest card advantage that has, again, the limiter that is akin to Ranger. Right, now for Azalea, right, with Three of a Kind, still very, very usable with all the new equipment that we've got, right? So, for instance, you have many ways to play cards not from your hand when it comes to arrows, right? You've got a bow, for starters, you have a quiver now, so that's 2 charges. Azalea yourself, you can swap out a card in your arsenal, so that's pseudo 3, right? And then you have new sharpshooters, which also allows you to put an arrow from hand into your arsenal. So you have at least 3 ways to play a card, right, from your hand after you use Three of a Kind. So the whole arsenal restriction, again, isn't that big of a deal, but altogether, the first question that I'm curious to ask, right? Would you take Honing Hood, right? Just to play all 3 3-of-a-kinds and have a 5-card advantage swing turn, right? Because what you could do as Azalea, again, using the 3 ways you can still play arrows, you could take very, very big arrows, right? Very, very debilitating arrows, and run with that. But you can take a bunch of the reload effects that allow you to buff, and yeah, you could do some damage. But we'll play through the 3-of-a-kinds, right? I've got some Clarity Potions as well, because that will also help you set up the deck. Now, aside from the opening hand, I've not stacked the deck, right? It's randomized, because I'm just curious how well it does end up stringing together. But thanks to the Pathing Helix in hand, the blue to pitch, we should be able to easily play all 3 3-of-a-kind, right? So play the one from hand to start off. We pitch the Notch the Death Whistle as the pitchable, right? We get 3 cards. We can then play the one from Arsenal. We get 3 more cards, and then from there we can load up, right, using Sharpshooters to put a Pathing Helix into our arsenal. We can also use the Perch Grapplers if we want to give it a go again, or we could use the Quiver, right? You'd probably use Sharpshooter, considering you want to guarantee that you put a card into the arsenal. So yeah, let's begin, right? Perch Grapplers, we'll pitch Silver Tip, we'll pitch the blue Pathing Helix. I think Silver Tip is better, right? Then we'll do Sharpshooter. We will put a Pathing Helix into the arsenal. And then utilizing this Pathing Helix, we can, for one, put the target Totalizer on. But if this lands, that straight away allows us to play the next 3-of-a-kind. And even if it doesn't, again, we have a chunk of cards for us to run through with the Quiver, with the Sandscale Greatbow, to then try and get 3-of-a-kind off, right? So we get the extra card draw, we get to put 1 more card into our arsenal, 3-of-a-kind, we get to play the 3rd 3-of-a-kind, and this is our hand going forward, right? So now it's all just about stringing these cards together, which again is very doable, right? If we start with opting, yeah, that's probably the way to start. Well, Soundscale Greatbow still allows us to look at the deck, so we'll start there. We'll do Soundscale Greatbow. If it's something from the deck, it's not, oh well, we'd be able to get an aim counter, but nonetheless, we can put Pathing Helix, right? We can then play Pathing Helix. Pathing Helix will hit. It will then give a reload effect, and from there, we could gain some buffs like Take Aim, we keep them as pitchable fodder, or we go into Silver Tip and try to look for more cards. Knowing that Silver Tip is on top of the deck, we'd probably be, I don't know, like Take Aim into Bolt and Shot. That's probably decent enough, right? So we go Take Aim, we play Take Aim, we get the reload effect. We can then go into Overflex or another Take Aim, right? Make sure the Bolt and Shot actually has Go Again, has its reload effect, and then we go into the Bolt and Shot. When we play Bolt and Shots, you know what? We can get more resources. We can do Hidden Agenda as well, right? We can do Hidden Agenda. We can Bolt and Shot. From there, it will hit. We then get to put a Pathing Helix or a Silver Tip, right? We could, risk it. We could do Silver Tip and then hope that the one of the 2 cards on top is actually something we can utilize, right? So Silver Tip lets us look at 2. It is an arrow, perfect, right? So we'll put Bolt and Shot into our arsenal. That goes to the bottom, that's fine, but then we can go back into another chain with the Bolt and Shot we just generated, right? We could use Azalea as well to try and search something else, and we still have the Quiver, right? Not to mention the Clarity Potions to try and find something else. This has an aim counter, so it is also going to draw a card thanks to the target Totalizer if it does hit, right? And again, all of a sudden, the 3-of-a-kind, which again has play restraints built into it, apparently, doesn't quite have the same constraints you might think built into it. Although, we did not have it buffed, right? So we didn't actually get the reload effect, so that could be the end of the chain. But, right, in more skilled hands, I'm pretty sure I'm making the point where you could get this to a viable place. I mean, that was still a 19 damage turn, which is still fairly decent. Granted, lots of investment. Still have a 4-card hand overall. We get Clarity Potion, right? Clarity Potion. We will put both of these to the bottom. Clarity Potion again. And put that to the bottom. Put that to the bottom. We're kind of looking for a Pathing Helix. There should be more of them. There we go. Bottom, top. Then we can Quiver. We can pitch the blue Silver Tip. That'll do. Gets put into our arsenal. We can then Pathing Helix again. Do a little bit of damage. We can then just go through the Overflexes. Might as well at this point, right? How many resources do we have to end up pitching? We probably won't have enough. You know what? I'll take the red Overflex. We will play the red Overflex. We will pitch the other Overflex. Right? Put Pathing Helix. Do some damage with Pathing Helix. Generate the resource as well. Pathing Helix. Do a bit more damage. Put Silver Tip. And then use Silver the Tip to hopefully find, there you go, another Pathing Helix. Right, so we can do Pathing Helix, we can do bottom, we could roll the dice and use Azalea's ability, right? What do we get? Nothing, apparently. Or do I have to select the arrow? I've really not done a lot with Azalea, but there we go, right? We drew Silver Tip thanks to the target totalizer. We have the resources, so we just go into it again. No arrow, so we did run out. And this is another thing that I do want to point out, right? There is just Bolt and Shot and Pathing Helix, right? Those are the two arrows that have reload effects. Everything else is constrained to buffs or other mechanics. But Three of a Kind is very dependent on how many reload effects are actually in the game. If you know, LSS decides to print another chain of arrows, that is problematic, because right now we can take 18 arrows that make this functionally work, right? If they print anything to add to that, that's just going to increase the power of Three of a Kind. And altogether, it just, to me, does illustrate that Three of a Kind is the design that they're pointing out that they want to correct. And yet, again, because of its natural limiter, which, again, gets overshadowed by equipment, by all this other stuff that can be developed for the game, it's left, right? And I think that's more to do with them, again, failing to do correct amounts of testing or thought, and mostly leaving it up to the community, right? If the community doesn't find these problematic cards, LSS doesn't really go digging. Zen and Art of War, for instance. Art of War does cause issues in certain classes, certain heroes, but not in everyone, right? But it was really brought to light with Zen, so away it goes, right? Same with Tome or other Tome, right? All Tomes. But yeah, there we go. Three of a Kind. You can definitely still draw a lot with it. Again, simple setup is just Honing Hood, one in arsenal, one in hand, another in hand, and you can play all three in one turn for a 5-card advantage, and that in itself seems absurdly powerful, again, with 3 ways to play arrows: Sharpshooter, Bow, and Quiver, right? You don't have to take the Sandscour, you can just take another straight-up bow that allows you to put a arrow directly from hand into arsenal. And I'm sure there's 3 devastating arrows that are probably quite costly that you could chain together to really do damage as Azalea with 5 cards extra in hand. Anyway, we'll leave it there, right? That's my little spiel on Three of a Kind. I am going to do the same thing, well, try to at the very least, for the other cards outlined on this as well, right? We'll look into Tome of Harvest. Tome of Arknight, right? Again, design constraint. They give more opt or more deck stacking to Runeblade, then it becomes a problem. Tome of Pyre of Flame, same thing. If, depending on the angle they go with Draconic, it can become more of a problem than what it was, right? So, yeah, we'll see what happens. But if Cash In is good enough to remove, I'm pretty sure some of these other cards are too, right? So, I know, maybe I have a grudge since they got rid of the cards I was most interested in playing, right? Cash In. Again, I've done my whole goal spiel. We'll leave it there. Hope you enjoyed. See ya.